Most weapons are clear and pretty straightforward. Then you have the gimmick weapons, which have a little something that makes them special. The question is there substance behind the gimmick? Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're gonna be diving deeper into this Mastery Rank 11 secondary weapon, the Dual Toxocyst. I'm gonna be covering a cheap build, something affordable that anybody can get into, but of course we also have the quote-unquote endgame setup with a Riven. That being said, please keep in mind that my builds and guides usually follow a more new player-friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of info here and I want anybody watching this video to understand how the weapon functions and how it should be built. So if you're a veteran of the game and already know most of the basics, then please bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Dual Toxocyst. Let's begin by checking out how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that I'm gonna be needing a couple of volunteers. The main trick of the Toxocyst is a buff called Frenzy. If you look at the upper right side of the screen, you will see the buff gets refreshed with each and every headshot. You don't need to kill your target, but you do need to land headshots. The duration of the buff is 3 seconds, and additional headshots will not increase the timer, but it will reset the timer. The buff is 150% fire rate, heavily reduced recoil, as well as unlimited ammo. You also get 100% of the weapon's base damage as toxin, which can combine to the elemental combos you already made on the weapon. Stuff like corrosive, viral, or gas, for example. Without that buff, however, the Dual Toxocyst is a pretty lame weapon in the sense that this is maximum rate of fire right now. So as you can see, it doesn't have all that much fire rate, and the recoil is even bigger than the Aclex Prime. Let's check out the stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. First of all, mod capacity is 60 out of 60, and if your Dual Toxocyst only has 30 out of 30, then jump into actions and plug in an Arcane Catalyst. The Arcane Catalyst can be obtained from alerts and invasions, especially after dev streams, or you can just pay 20 plat for it. It's also a possible reward from the daily sortie. My weapon has been formatted a total of 5 times because I need to test a whole bunch of things, but for the weapon build I'm gonna be recommending you guys 2 forma should be enough. By default, the Dual Toxocyst comes with 2 polarities. You have a dash or Naramon and a V or Madurai, and you can just add 2 more Vs and that should prove sufficient. The accuracy is 16.0, which is actually not that bad. It is a pretty accurate weapon. Critical chance, unfortunately, is abysmal at 5%. The multi is not bad at 2.0, but again, there's not much you can do with that crit chance. Even if you choose to slap on, let's say, a Prime Pistol Gambit, you're gonna be knocking it up to 14.4, which, to be honest, isn't all that much. But there is a way to get that crit chance to a solid value, but it's not through modding. We'll talk about that a bit later. Fire rate is 1.0, but again, this is without the buff. Magazine of 12 and a reload at 2.3. The point to the Dual Toxocyst is to keep up the frenzy buff for as long as you can, and while that buff is active, the weapon is an absolute beast and you don't need to worry about magazine size and reload time. But I'll be honest here, keeping the buff up in everyday gameplay can be problematic depending on the number of enemies and their level. Riven disposition is 4 out of 5, which means that the Rivens will be quite potent for this one. Sadly, the Dual Toxocyst is not a very popular weapon. Status chance is 37% sky high, and this is where the weapon shines. Now let's talk a little bit about impact, puncture, and slash, or the default damage of the weapon. You got a total of, what is that, 75. Keep in mind that you will be getting that 75 as toxin damage whenever you proc Frenzy. I tried everything I could to make this weapon into a slasher because I got a high status chance, and of course if I can get the slash to be the highest, I'm gonna be getting a lot of slashes out of it. Unfortunately, just slapping on maim, even razor shot will not be enough simply because of the low amount of slash on the weapon. If you want to make it into a slasher with viral, you're gonna need a very specific Riven with minus puncture and plus slash. In any case, we rambled on enough, let's start slapping on some mods, and the first thing, as per the usual, is gonna be damage. Hornet Strike mandatory on mostly any secondary. When it comes to damage, you do have a couple of additional options. Augur Pack gives you 90% damage, and you also have the benefit of the set. On the Dual Toxocyst is not a bad idea, but we have better options. So for now, Hornet Strike will do it. Next, multi-shot, the best thing on mostly everything. Barrel diffusion mandatory, 120% multi-shot, as well as lethal torrent for the 60% multi-shot, but also for the fire rate. Now the fire rate doesn't do much for you when it comes to the unfrenzied mode, but as soon as frenzy kicks in, that will make quite the difference. And again, we got unlimited ammo, so woohoo. Next, elemental damage. Normally this is when you would be looking into crit chance and crit damage, but again, because of that low base crit chance, slapping on crit mods would kind of be a waste, at least for now. More on that later. So let's start slapping on elemental damage types, which should be always equipped depending on where you're going and who you're fighting. If you guys are going up against the Corpus, for example, building magnetic damage will deal extra damage to their shields, or you can just build Toxin, which will bypass their shields entirely and deal damage to their health. If you're up against the Infested, then woohoo for you, because you're going to be able to keep that buff up a lot easier, and you should build Fire, Viral, even Corrosive in some situations. The problem with the Infested is that they have 4 health types, and each of those 4 health types have different resistances and vulnerabilities to damage. Check that one out on the wiki. Fire, more often than not, is more than enough to deal with them, and you do have for pistols Prime Heated Charge. If you guys have this one, just simply slap it on and forget about it. Fully max it out at 165, and that will prove a huge DPS increase, especially against Infested and other targets which are susceptible to fire damage. In any case, today we're going to be taking the example of the Grineer. Heavily armored targets, they have alloy or ferrite armor depending on who you're shooting. Bombards, for example, have alloy armor, which is weak to radiation. Heavy gunners have ferrite armor, which is weak to corrosive damage. So again, pick and choose. More often than not, against Grineer, going corrosive is the best bet you can, and corrosive is the elemental combo between electricity and toxin. Which one should we go for, the 90 mods or the 60-60 mods? Actually, in this case, we're gonna go for both of them. So we're gonna slap on Convulsion and Jolt. Jolt is a bit of a problem. If you don't have it, that's fine. You simply can leave this one out and replace it with something like Fire Rate or maybe Steady Hands for lower recoil on the unfrenzied state. Jolt is obtained only from Battle-Key tier when he brings it, unfortunately. Currently going on the trade chat for about 50 plat on PC. We got electricity, so let's go for Toxin. Pathogen rounds, 90% Toxin, and Pistol Pestilence, 60-60 mod for Toxin. This one is a lot cheaper, 10 to 15 plat max, and it is farmable from Corrupted Vor in the Void. And now I got a lot of Corrosive. Look at that, 2000 Corrosive, so I'm gonna be proccing a lot of Corrosive, yes? Well, no. Keep in mind that Impact, Puncture, and Slash have a 4 times greater chance of proccing status effects over elemental types, so don't think of your Puncture as 537. When it comes to status chance, think of it as 2150. However, when we proc Frenzy, we are gonna get that extra Toxin, which will wash into our Corrosive, and only then our Corrosive will be higher in status chance than the Puncture. I know it gets a little bit confusing, I honestly do, but that is simply how Warframe works. Anyway, we still got one more mod slot, and this is what I like to call the option slot, and it's really up to you what you're gonna slap into this one. A couple of recommendations, if I may. Let's go back to damage with Augur Pact and 90% extra damage. This is one solid option, and you cannot go wrong with this one. Here's another one, Steady Hands. Now what Steady Hands will do is make the weapon a whole lot more manageable in its unfrenzied state. However, as soon as you go frenzied, that 60% minus recoil won't really matter all that much, so it kind of becomes a semi-dead mod. What I'm gonna be recommending to you guys is something a bit counterintuitive, Fire Rate with Gunslinger or Anemic Agility. Now, the thing is, as soon as you go frenzied, you're gonna want that extra Fire Rate to pepper your targets with as many bullets as possible to make it easier to get another headshot and keep the buff refreshing. Now, the discussion between Gunslinger and Anemic Agility is kind of similar to the one between Speed Trigger and Vile Acceleration. However, the difference between these two mods is not 30%, is only 18% at the cost of 15% damage. I recommend Gunslinger because, again, I don't think losing 15% damage is worth for just another 18% fire rate. But of course, this one falls down to you guys. Choose your favorite between the two. And this is gonna be our first build, so let's get to testing. I'm gonna be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Gunner level 120. I'm not gonna pause the AI this time. I wanna see how well I can get the headshots on moving targets. Now keep in mind that even if the AI was paused, they would not take extra damage from ranged attacks. That is an old issue and has been fixed. And I'm gonna simply unload on these guys at full fire rate. As you saw there, I was careful at aiming the first shot so I can get the buff rolling, but now I'm simply doing full fire rate and I keep refreshing the buff. And this is definitely very easy to manage. So once again, I drop my buff now, I'm waiting for it to go away. I'm aiming just the first shot, get the buff, and then go for full fire rate and pepper my targets as best as I can. Now this is decent, definitely, this is okay. It's not overly powerful, but still I am going through these high level targets quite quickly with the Dual Toxocyst. Now that's one way you can go about it. The next way, well, is a little bit convoluted simply because it revolves around an arcane. Let's hop into Mirage and take a look at that specific arcane. It's gonna be Arcane Avenger. Now this one, on damage, 14% chance for 30% critical chance for 8 seconds. The thing about Arcane Avenger and its bonus, it's an additive bonus. So it's not gonna multiply my 5% plus 30. Okay, you're gonna get 30% over the 5%, bringing up my crit chance to 35%. As you saw earlier, if I add a fully maxed out Prime Pistol Gambit, I only get extra 9% crit chance, but this one will give me 30. Now let's hop back into the Dual Toxocyst and change a mod. Okay, now I got some crit chance. I'm gonna be up at 35% crit chance. I can go into crit damage. Still not worth using crit mods, okay? Still not worth. So let's look at crit damage. The crit damage mod is Target Cracker, or if you guys have Prime Target Cracker, then by all means use the Prime one. For the sake of presentation, I'm gonna be using this one, and we're gonna be dropping a 60-60 mod, and we're gonna be dropping Jolt because this one is the more expensive one. So now I got some crit damage, 3.2. Again, the crit multi on the Dual Toxocyst is quite good. The problem is the crit chance. Resimulate and go to town again on these guys. Once again, same tactic as before, one headshot and then simply unload. As you can see, it's a whole lot better now thanks to the crit chance. The low crit chance is what keeps this weapon in check for the most part. Now you can semi-trick that with Arcane Avenger. 30% additive is a whole lot, and this is the build I'm gonna be recommending for you guys as long as you can get Arcane Avenger. Currently on PC, Arcane Avenger R3 goes for 200 plat, and that is a lot of plat. Alternatively, you can go down to Cetus and farm it from the third Eidolon. I know that might prove difficult for some of you guys, but you gotta get into Eidolon farming sometime. In any case, let's switch to a Riven setup now, so we can go full blast with the Dual Toxocyst. Now the Riven I got here has damage, toxin, and status chance, so I drop one 60-60 mod for this one, and I swapped in Prime Target Cracker instead of the normal version. And we're gonna respawn the exact same targets as before. One steady headshot and then unload. You'll see that my fire rate is kind of went down a little bit because I did have to sacrifice whatchamacallit, Gunslinger, so I don't have that 72% fire rate anymore. But per shot I am doing so much more damage thanks to the Riven and thanks to the Prime mod, Prime Target Cracker. Just a few shots to take out one of these guys. It is honestly a beast as long as Frenzy is up. One last test, let's go all out with Warframe buffs this time, and we're gonna go hop into Mirage and switch to another setup. Now this one has Arcane Avenger and Arcane Velocity. On critical hit, 60% chance for 80% fire rate to pistols for 6 seconds and the usual +1 Arcane Revive. Now this one wouldn't really be usable without Arcane Avenger, even if you slap on all the crit chance you have on the Dual Toxocyst because of the low base crit chance. Now here's another option, Arcane Awakening. On reload, 40% chance for +100% damage to pistols for 16 seconds and the usual +1 Arcane Revive. Now this one is not ideal because again you want to play into Frenzy, so you're not really gonna be reloading all that much, but definitely this is an option. And here is another solid option, Arcane Precision. On headshot, 80% chance for +120% damage to pistols for 8 seconds. This one is solid, but the combo I'm recommending is Avenger, which kinda enables velocity. When it comes to auras, you have two options. First of all, Pistol Lamp. Pistol damage increased by 27%. Of course, it's an aura, so everybody in the party is gonna get the benefit, and it is stackable. However, if you guys know you're fighting Grenier, then Corrosive Projection more often than not will be the better choice. Enemy armor reduced by 30%. However, Pistol Lamp will grant its benefit regardless of the target. Now for the final test, respawn the exact same guys and activate Mirage's third ability for a massive damage increase and her first ability for the clones. And once again, same tactic as before, one solid headshot and now unload with everything I got, and you will see that I am able to tear through these guys in just a couple of shots and just a couple of seconds. What was that, 15 seconds? Come on baby. And we are done. I think that was around 20 seconds, not bad. As for my thoughts on the Dual Toxocyst, well, it's pretty simple. As long as Frenzy is up, this is an absolute beast of a weapon. If Frenzy is not up, then it's pretty clunky and rather underwhelming. It really depends on the player how much he can get out of the Dual Toxocyst. I love the weapon, I honestly do. This might actually take the place of my Akbolto. But that's gonna do it for this build guide. Hopefully now you know everything you need to about the Dual Toxocyst. If I missed something, by all means let me know in the comment section down below. As always, my name is Lazar. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you have any feedback for me or would like to request a specific weapon review, then by all means leave it in the comment section down below. I can't realistically promise you that it will be done by next time, but I will be reading through each and every comment. But until next time guys, bye bye.